See if this works, huh? My wife built this little refuge, we call it, by our chickens. So we've got, I think, 9 of them. I'll just wait here till a couple more people jump on. Hey, girls. As long as you get me breakfast in the morning. So my wife got this refuge that we sit in. Kind of chill out. It's hot too. I don't usually get zits almost at 40 years old, but there's one right there. Okay, so I just got back from a couple events. I'm really tired, by the way. I usually don't get tired, but I am. Drove up to Idaho Falls, which is beautiful. Then went to the rally the next morning in Salt Lake City, which was amazing. Didn't get the turnout that I thought we would. I think a lot of people are really afraid right now, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But for those that went, it was so awesome. I love gathering, especially during all these crazy times where the government doesn't want us to gather. And there's a reason for that, I believe. I don't know if you guys just saw on nightly news, that the Department of Homeland Security just advised to watch out for 3 potential terrorist groups or people that are thinking terroristic thoughts. And the first one is people that push back against COVID restrictions. This is on mainstream national news. Those that push back against COVID restrictions are now on a terrorist list. Okay. Number 2 was those who claim election results are fraudulent. And then number 3 was those gathering for 9/11 type events or religious events for 9/11. So the 3 things that the Department of Homeland Security is saying, those are anytime that the mainstream media is pushing one thing, it's usually and always, now, it wasn't always, but usually it's the exact opposite. Meaning, they know that they're gaining massive amount of control from COVID-19. And the propaganda that's being put out, that those that don't get are the problem, and they're the reason for all of this. And then the election. If you had such a fair election, why are you worried about it? If it was so fair, wouldn't you just open up the books and open up the computers, the hard drives? Wouldn't you just do that? If it was so fair, as a leader, wouldn't you want to just say, yeah, absolutely, come and check it out? I wouldn't want to hold office if I didn't win properly. But that didn't happen. And then number 3, the 9/11 type anniversaries. So these are all terrorist groups. Do you see how dangerous this is right now, you guys? Do you see how dangerous this is? It's extremely scary. I might have to go into the inside here. Oh, wow, Facebook's actually giving me a little bit of. I usually only get like 20 people on there, so I might go inside because it's like 100 and something degrees out here. So hold on, I'm gonna go in. Hey, I gotta go inside. Yeah, the phone warms up. Sorry, guys. The refuge turned out to not work. Okay, so that's on nightly news. I don't know if you guys are seeing in Afghanistan right now, the Taliban is completely taken over. I think the president and all, they've like fled, and everybody's going to the airport because it's been completely taken over. And Donald Trump right now is calling out Joe Biden, saying, "What are you doing, man?" Kind of like what we thought. And then, sorry, hold on one second. Okay. So why I wanted to do this video, because there's a lot of confusion right now, especially in the state of Utah. Well, many members of my church. I'm getting a lot of messages from people thinking that I'm apostate for putting out opinions about what we do in my house as with regards to our medical decisions. And I just want to say this. I've said it in a few posts that the church was built to support families. Families are the most important unit of eternity. And it's a patriarchal order. The family is heaven. And the church is there to sustain the family, not the other way around. And I know that that's really hard to say, because we're taught and there's this idea that no matter what the leaders say, we're going to follow it, no matter what, under any circumstance. And I understand, because because these men that happen to be church leaders, good men, by the way, men that have given up their entire lives. I cannot stand when people sit and bash these men, even if they do happen to make a mistake, even if they do something that's out of what you believe. They are good men, and they are men who are trying to do the right thing. I believe that with all my heart. However, like I've said in many videos, that the church, and this is my opinion, remember you have to have opinions, but this is my opinion, that the church is the woman. The church is the bride. If you read the book of Revelation, chapter 12, the dragon basically bullies the woman. And so men and women have very different roles. The role of a woman is to protect under any circumstance. They're going to protect. The role of a man is to defend the woman. And unfortunately, we have very, very confused, gender confused men in our church, because they want to act like the woman is acting, act like the church is acting, act like apostles are acting, when in reality, we have a different role. We have a role over God. God has given us stewardship over our families and over our children. That is our stewardship as husband and wife, and if it's just single parent, over your family. And nobody can enter into that threshold. Not government, not a church. That's you are in stewardship of them. And so that's why it's so important that we do seek, just like, because everyone's saying, oh, it's a commandment. They put out a letter, and I'll get to that letter in just a second. It's a commandment. Well, in the letter, did it talk about Jesus Christ being the answer? Go and read the letter. It said something in the fact that this is the only solution, is being immunized. The only solution? What about Christ? What about the power of the priesthood? What I'm saying is that I believe the government asked them to do that. Just like in Utah. There's many people that are on my page that are not from Utah, but last year, the Utah area authorities, they put out a letter to say wear a mask. Everywhere you go, just wear a mask. There was no explanation. There was no exceptions. Like, for example, if you've already had COVID-19. And so this letter, I believe that it was a political letter. And that's why I believe President Nelson said, in the upcoming days, you can't do this without the whisperings of the Spirit. It's impossible. You cannot do it without the whisperings of the Spirit. What are you going to do? Because when the prophet says, and remember, guys, opinion. A lot of people are like, have sent me a message, you think you're the prophet? No. I have an opinion, and I'm an American citizen, and I have an opinion, and this is my opinion, that When the government tells a church what to do, that's the role of the woman. Now there's going to come a time when they're going to have to make some hard stands, but I believe they're doing everything that they can to keep temples open worldwide. So when the prophet says things like global citizens, or be good global citizens, people lose their mind. Well, why would you lose your mind? You're not a global citizen if you live in America. You're an American citizen. And in America, we have a different constitution. We have a duty to uphold and protect the Constitution of the United States of America. And that's not anti-government. We believe in the proper role of government. We believe that these government officials need to be making moral decisions. And those moral decisions have to do with our lives. These moral decisions, when they act immorally, we lose our liberty. And by not calling them out, because we want to look nice, because sadly, a lot of people in this culture, we worship the gospel of nice versus the gospel of truth. We don't want to be that guy. So we don't want to call out our neighbor that happens to be a politician that's not doing the right thing. And by not saying anything is saying something. By not speaking up, you're speaking up, and there's a consequence to that. And it's immoral for us, with the duties that we have, to not say something, especially when you know something is going wrong. And I understand that it's not for everybody. I think there's a front line for a reason. There's a front line of people that are trying to fight for our freedoms for a reason. I stood on the front steps of the Salt Lake City and County building yesterday with a man, and a lot of people don't like that I will have rallies with him and that I invite him. His name is Lady Maga, Ryan. I stood on the front steps of City and County building with him, and never in my life did I ever imagine that I would be on the front line with a drag queen, a gay man, on the very steps of the city that took my badge for bigotry at one time. And it was amazing, because I would stand with him. I'll stand with anyone for these principles, but I would stand with him to my grave, because he's not a transgender. Everyone thinks just because he's in drag that he's a transgender. He's not transgender. He is more of a man than 99.9% of men in the state of Utah fighting for our freedoms. And so people have such a hard time with this. Well, it's such a good thing. Vaccine's such a good thing. Okay, what if it was? What if it was such a good thing? The government still has no right to force it. Employers have no right to do that. It's discrimination. And so, what if the CDC popped out and the CDC came out with this emergency? This is a huge epidemic. People are dying everywhere because of heart disease. Well, if you want to think about it, heart disease kills way more people than COVID-19. So what if there was this big thing and they started chopping down McDonald's and Burger King? We got to stop. We got to put it, all these things. And then they went to a local church. And a local church, can you put out a message to the people, because heart disease is killing all these people? It's a pandemic, which in reality it is a lot bigger pandemic. And so church, what do you say? And the church leaders get together and they write a letter and they say, we urge members of our church to eat clean and get on a treadmill for 30 minutes a day. Well, what would the members do then? You think that they would eat clean and get an exercise for 30 minutes a day because a first presidency came out? Or do you think there would be like, wow, that letter kind of makes me uncomfortable. I don't know. I don't think the prophet can be telling us that, what we should eat every single time. But would you do it? A lot of people say, well, yeah, I'd do it. Well, then do it. Because heart disease and heart attack kill way more people than COVID-19. So people think that their compliance is going to stop all of this. Just comply, just do this, and once we get this, we're going to get our freedoms back. And why are you fighting against this? So all of us that have been saying these things from the very beginning, hey, this isn't about masks. And then all these people are saying this isn't about vaccines, or it's not about masks, it's about vaccines. I would argue a lot further than that. This isn't about either. This is about control. This is about a new world order. Now people are like, that's crazy talk. There's no such thing as plans of a new world order that want to take over the entire globe. If you look right now in France, they just brought forth the vaccine passports, okay? And in France, 42% of people in France have chosen not to do it. So 42% are not going to be able to go to the grocery store, have a job. Right now in America, you go to a restaurant, they can't even fill up the employees. They can't even fill up staff to serve their entire restaurant capacity. What do you think is going to happen in France? What do you think is going to happen in all of these countries that bring up this vaccine passport? You know what's going to happen to those small businesses? They're going to crash. And when they crash, who's going to come in to save them? The government. This is about getting mass population on the government dime so that the government can come in to be the rulers of all of them. And I know that's hard to hear, but can't you see it? How can you not see this? And now they're doing vaccine passports in LA. They already did it up in San Francisco. Now they want to do it in LA where millions of people live, to where you can't even shop. And all these lawmakers are just silent. In the state of Utah years ago, they brought forth this bill, religious freedom and LGBT rights together. And I was a part of that. I testified on part of that. Because they thought maybe one or two LGBT people may have been discriminated on housing and employment. So everybody kumbaya rallied together. Let's do it. Where are those same voices for all of these people in Utah and around the country that are getting discriminated on for not taking this, for not being a part of the human science experiment? Nobody's saying a word. They're in the name of, well, liberty, freedom, the business should have the freedom to do that. Well, where was your same voice, Spencer Cox, and all of you Utah lawmakers? Where was your voice when you were forcing business owners to put on masks? You were forcing business owners to force their employees to wear masks, and you were forcing every single customer on to wear masks. Where was your voice? What about all the people that have built up antibodies, have already had COVID? That's not an exception? So what's going to happen? I'm telling you what's going to happen. You're going to see in the next year, this is, well, I should say my opinion, right? You're going to see in the next year where there's going to be underground societies built for people that aren't going to take this thing. And underground trading, this is what's going to go down, to where people are going to have to start helping their neighbor out because they're not going to be on this new system. And once the dollar does crash, which it will, they will crash the US dollar because it inflated so much, which is all intentional. They're going to bring in a new world order, global currency. And when that happens, you're going to have to choose whether or not you're going to get your money. And it's going to look so good. Oh my gosh, like unity, love, we're all going to be under one thing. Under many conditions. Your behavior. Booster after booster after booster after booster. And those that don't comply, they don't get their money. That's what's coming. And so those of you that are laughing, it's fine. You can laugh. But that's the plan. And when it does happen, and when the government does come to churches and say, hey, write this letter and write this letter, what are you going to do when the church comes out with a letter that says, we advise everyone to turn in your guns? What are you going to do? What are you going to do when they say, everybody turn in all your property to the state? when it comes out a church letter? When the government asks them to do that, what are you going to do? That's why you got to think through these things right now. What are you going to do at that time to where you're following your conscience because you're in charge, you have stewardship over you and your family? What are you going to do? So I know I could be wrong. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong with all of this stuff. I hope that all of your compliance will take the government and say, oh, thank you. Thank you so much for taking this. We're all safe now. I hope that that's right. And I hope I'm wrong. And I hope all of you can come on here and make fun of everything I'm saying. Everything. But I say this every single time, but this is a spiritual war, you guys. This is the same war that was fought in heaven. The exact same one, and it spilled onto the earth. And there were 2 plans. And one of those plans is that you are going to choose to come back to heaven. You're going to be able to make the choice to come back to heaven. And we're going to send a Savior to be able to do that. And then there was another plan, and that other plan was none will be lost. And if you think about both of those plans, what was the reward for both of them? The reward for both of those plans was heaven. So why wouldn't you just want heaven? Well, a third followed that other plan, that none will be lost. You just take it. You're forced to take it, but you can just take it. And a third of the host didn't, and 2/3 rejected it. And that's you. And that's me. And so my point is I don't care if it's a vitamin C or exercise, or if the mask did work, which the box says that it doesn't, or if this thing works, which we know there's a lot of breakthrough cases. Even if it was heaven itself, we are not going to be forced to take it. And I hope that you understand that. That's why, and people think, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Why are you going around? You think I like going around doing this stuff? Do you think that I like it? Going on, and if you just Google my name, anti-vaxxer, this. I've got kids that carry my last name. And I could go out and make a lot of money. And that's what I was used to doing the last couple of years, making a lot of money. But I feel that it's my duty to do this. And I feel it's my duty to just raise your voice. And people are always like, well, what can I do? Raise your voice. Start speaking. Start saying the things that you need to say in your families, in your employer. Because if everybody just started to speak up, that's when that wave starts to go back a little bit. And truth and light is so much more powerful than darkness. When you're in a really, really dark room and there's just a tiny, tiny little light in the corner, think about, all you do is just look and you see that light. And so you become the light and you start speaking truth, even if it's uncomfortable. Because when you speak the truth, people will look at it and they'll have the courage to say it. So that's what you do. And I've said this over and over and over. I don't know if we stop what's coming. It's getting really bad. And as you think that by complying you're going to get your freedoms, by you complying, that just brings more control. Your compliance brings more control. And so we have to do it with love. We have to do it boldly. And we just have to start speaking out. And like I said, I don't know if we do it. I don't know if we stop it. There was only 8 people that jumped on the boat with Noah. 8. 8 people were right when being right really mattered. And before Noah came the flood, I believe that we are here before the fire. And I don't think we stopped the fire. But I don't think that the question's going to be from God is, did you stop it? I think the question is where did you stand? Where did you stand when it mattered? Because this life is a proving, testing ground. And the fight for freedom is an eternal fight. Good and evil will be on every planet for eternity. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that if we're not standing for the principle to choose, if we're not standing for the principle of freedom and liberty now, why would we choose to do that in the next life? We're not going to do it. And that's why it's a testing ground. And God wants us to become like him. God is looking for leaders. God is not looking for followers. Because the kingdom of God, the highest of the high, is going to be filled with leaders. People that know how to make decisions on universal principles. And the kingdom of the devil is going to be filled with followers who are told what to do. Shut your mouth. You don't have an identity. You don't have an opinion. You don't have a gender. So, anyway, guys, I know that a lot of people disagree with it, and a lot of things that I just said may or may not be true, but it's something that I believe in my heart. And Satan is very, very good at mimicking Heavenly Father. Very, very good at it. He'll take Heavenly Father's plan and he'll mimic it. And what I believe is happening is Satan knows that he's going to be bound for 1,000 years. He knows that there's when Christ comes, which he's close, I believe that to be true. He knows that he's going to be bound for 1,000 years. And in that 1,000 years, there is going to be an order. There is going to be a united order of love, of sharing, of Zion. And Satan's trying to mimic that order, that united order, a global order under the King of Kings, under the Lord of Lords, which is Christ. And Satan's trying to take that order and he's trying to mimic it with a new world order. But by force, by coercion, by manipulation, by lies, all in the name of love and all in the name of safety. And so pray for our leaders. Don't mock them. Don't mock our church leaders. They are trying to walk a very, very tight rope to keep things as much as possible in operation until the great Jehovah shall say the work is done. And even if they were wrong, let's just say that they were wrong, they can make mistakes too. Just like you can make mistakes. Just like I make mistakes. And ultimately, like the policy says, it's between you and God. It's between you and God. So, anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I want to leave my testimony with you, that I know that the gospel of Jesus Christ has been restored, and that there are certain keys and there are certain ordinances that cannot be found anywhere else. And I know that to be true. I know it to be true by the Spirit of God that has been testified to me over and over and over. And I know that these men were called of God. I know that. Think about what President Nelson has been saying a few years ago. He literally set up home church. And he said, prepare for what's coming. Buckle up. Take your vitamins. Hey, he said take your vitamins before he said take your vaccines. I'm going to choose vitamins. But guess what? Was taking your vitamins a commandment? How many people are taking their vitamins when he said to? How many people are buckled up? Buckled up for what? Anyway, so that's all. If you guys want to get on my text message alert just in case I get shut down, which is very possible because now we've checked off all 3 of the terrorist boxes. Text the word liberty to 888-210-6260. Oh, and if shoot, it's not up there. Oh, there it is. My book is now completely free online. It's always been free online, but you had to log in. It was kind of a pain. But my book, people are always like, you're just trying to push your book. It's free. This is my story at the Salt Lake City Police Department, how I lost my job. And that's why I tell all these guys, like, look, even if you lose your job, God will protect you. Even if you lose your job, if you try to stand for what you know to be true in your heart, it's going to be very difficult and it's going to be hard. But I promise you that God will bless you and your family. That's a promise. So anyway, go to my webpage. So if you text the word liberty to 888-210-6260, you'll get a text message back. And that middle link is my website. And if you go to menu, you can read my book for free. And then also, if you go to menu under non-essential, if you're kind of new to my page, we did a film called Non-Essential, and it's on my website as well. So please watch it and share it. It's what we did in Utah to try to push back against COVID mandates. Boom, boom, boom. And that's all. So it's ericmoutsos.com. So it's my first and last name.com. And it's on both of those. And so please watch that film and share it. And then the Utah Revival has been taken down by Weebly commies. So we're in the process of getting it onto a new hosting thing and getting that moving. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. And happy Sunday, and God bless America.